If you clicked on this video because you love storytelling and you're considering taking creative writing classes, I was in your position once. I started college back in 2018, having already written 2 novellas by that point, and I was actively outlining my third. I decided to major in English since it aligned with my goals at the time, and I found by my second semester that my college offered creative writing classes. I was excited to jump into them, but I still wondered, would they be a waste of time? I'm delighted to say that my overall answer was no, but there's so much that goes into the effectiveness of a creative writing course. Over the years, I've taken several courses of various levels with a few different professors with very different teaching philosophies, and I've been reflecting on the impact of each course as I continue to write and discuss creative writing. Now that I've graduated with a BA in English with a minor in creative writing, I want to discuss the benefits of taking these classes that help me the most, and possible alternatives to taking creative writing classes if you're looking for specific benefits. I'm sure all of you are wondering what the title states. Are creative writing classes worth it? Honestly, I have to say, it depends. Don't click away just yet, I'll explain. Looking back, there were a few classes where I learned a ton and genuinely improved, but there were also several where I learned very little or walked away basically unchanged. I think there can be value even in the classes where I didn't learn much, but my favorite courses were the ones that helped me improve. Those were always the hardest ones. However, it is important to point out that even the classes where I didn't learn much provided me with opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise, or exposed me to activities that I didn't think I would enjoy, but actively seek out now. Here are some examples from my own experiences with the classes that didn't help me improve as a writer. Even if your writing doesn't improve, taking a creative writing class can allow you to meet and socialize with other writers, participate in workshops, and potentially learn how to actually give and receive feedback, and learn about publishing opportunities, especially local ones. While these things may not be valuable to everyone, these skills and opportunities were incredibly valuable to me. In fact, most of the friends I have in real life are people I have met in my creative writing classes, and one of the classes that didn't teach me much about writing itself introduced me to Submittable, which is a great place to be looking for publications that are accepting submissions. Also, gotta say, not sponsored, but, I have an account there for obvious reasons. Beyond that, a lot of these classes will help prepare you for the harder, more craft-centric classes that you may run into later on if you decide to study creative writing. Oftentimes, they are prerequisites to those courses anyway. Obviously, if you want to take classes that will be valuable to you, you have to consider what you want to get out of them. When I first started, I mainly wanted to get more eyes on my writing and potentially make writer friends, but as I continued on, my values changed and I started pursuing courses that were craft and reflection heavy since they challenged me. Here are some examples of potential values and how creative writing courses or alternatives could meet those needs for you. Workshopping and processing feedback are very important skills for writers to learn, especially if they want to be traditionally published, and that's part of the reason why these skills are frequently taught in lower division creative writing courses. In my first lower division class, we had one-on-one workshops, especially since there were about 25 of us, but every class I took after that focused on a combination of class-wide workshops and one-on-ones. I always found class-wide workshops to be the most helpful, even if they were a little daunting at first. And I found that the best workshops focused on how the author could make their story into the best version of itself that it could be, not turning it into something that the class thinks would be more popular. One example of a bad workshop experience that comes to mind is from one of my upper division classes. Another student brought in an adorable romance story that featured anthropomorphic characters, and I felt so bad for them when a portion of the class started telling them that they need to make their characters human just because they didn't like furries. I ended up going over to them after class to tell them how much I love their story and that their anthro characters worked just fine, but this mainly happened because the teacher overseeing this class was inexperienced. Almost all of my other workshop memories are very positive, even the humbling ones. These workshops can also open doors for you to make friends with people who write similar stories or follow the same themes in their work. However, I'd like to point out that you can achieve a lot of this through regular writing groups and workshops, So if this is all you're looking for, maybe check out some local events and writing groups before you commit to an actual class. That way, if you do decide to take a class later down the road, the experience of participating in writing groups will kind of put you ahead. In my opinion, it's when you get into creative writing as a craft that creative writing classes actually become worth it. These craft-centric classes were the most difficult for me, but they were also my favorite. These classes often involve a lot of reading and writing, but don't be fooled. Most of the writing you do in these courses may involve relating assigned readings to craft elements rather than writing your own stories. Not that you won't be doing that too. These traits can usually be found in upper division university level classes, at least in my experience. For the ones I took, we were assigned at least 2 craft essays and 2 short stories to read, and were required to write 2 reflections at 500 words apiece per week during the first half of the semester. When workshops came around, which was the second half of the class, we had to read 4 of our classmates' short stories per week and write each one of them a 500-word review, giving advice from the craft essays we read, which amounted to reading at least 8,000 words and writing 2,000 words a week. None of that took into account the amount of time it took to write our short stories, which had to be at least 2,000 words by the time our workshop date came around, and 4,000 words long by the end of the semester. This is how I ended up writing my short story, Morrigan's Cabin. Needless to say, these classes kept me busy, and caused me to pause content creation altogether at some points. But they were the most valuable classes that I took. It also helped that I had an award-winning professor who was really passionate about the subject, which made his lectures and feedback incredibly engaging and helpful. He's a challenge to the adage, those who can do, those who can't teach, which I never believed in anyway. If I decided to go back to school, get an MFA, and become a professor, I would model my classes after his. Honestly, I have yet to find an alternative for this other than potentially self-studying, either by yourself or with other writer friends. If you want to improve with guidance from someone more knowledgeable than you, I would highly recommend taking these kinds of courses. So basically, to sum everything up, if you want to make new friends, gain workshop experience, or learn how to give and receive feedback, you can achieve this through lower division creative writing classes or local writing and workshop groups, or even online ones. Those exist too. If you'd like to take classes that will genuinely help you improve, or if the lower division classes feel too easy, seek out classes that have a heavy focus on storytelling as a craft, assign a lot of reading and reflection, and are taught by professors with an intense interest in creative writing. Don't be scared to Google your professors, and that goes for any class. Anyway, I hope this video helps if you decide you want to take creative writing classes, especially in college. If you want to hear more about my studies, experience, or projects, please consider joining my lovely Inkblots by subscribing here on YouTube or following my blog on my website. That'll be in the description down below. I have also started posting on Instagram again. A lot of what I post over there is also on this YouTube channel. The regular image posts are going to be community posts here on YouTube. So do with that what you will. If you'd like a taste of my writing, my short story, Morrigan's Cabin, is available to read for free on my website and also on Royal Road. And I plan on having a lot more of my writing available for me to share soon. Also, if you have more questions or any tips of your own, please leave them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Anyway, thanks for watching!